Is anyone going to strongly look into relocating and work remotely indefinitely when the pandemic is over? Has anyone realized that they can not only do their job from home but they actually could have the freedom to move to wherever you want to and are looking into it? Can you share your experience please? Where do you plan on going/coming from? So one thing to keep in mind with that is job competition also now opens way up. You no longer are competing with just the people in your area, you are competing nationwide, maybe even globally. Also, the cost of labor may decrease. You may be used to a salary that's representative of living in a city, but someone living in the middle of North Dakota wouldn't be expecting that same salary because the living expenses are much cheaper. I am 100% considering and being open to moving like that, and have done it in the short term currently. But it is just something you have to consider when taking that full leap. I went after and got a fully remote job 4 years ago, pre-pandemic. It was a painful and difficult process, because I had to win out against 135 other qualified applicants. And that's the number left after they weeded out the people who were not qualified. Due to the number of applicants, I spent about 8 total hours in interviews, worked on and submitted 2 sample projects, and filled out 3 online portals before ultimately getting the job. I can't imagine the interest that fully remote postings will garner post-pandemic. It is possible, but know that competition will be fierce. And if you are standing next to a person who lives in a small studio apartment in a small city, and you own a home in Boston and have 2 kids, they may choose the other guy just because he is cheaper than you. Yep. I think we will have a lot more remote workers and companies, but it is not going to be as rosy as it is now or as wonderful as people are hoping. Right now, there are lots of people happily collecting their Silicon Valley paychecks while moving to LCOL areas. Incidentally, they are also helping price out locals by snapping up real estate. I don't think that will be the case 5 or 10 years from now once companies start figuring out how to effectively leverage a global talent pool. Why pay Bobby in San Francisco $400,000 when Bill in Tulsa would be more than happy with $200,000? Why pay Bill $200,000 when Salvador in Brazil would be more than happy to accept $75,000? I've seen arguments about how companies need to pay to attract top talent, so no one is going to get their pay slashed for moving out of the city. And it is true that top talent will always be able to attract hefty paychecks. But there is a lot of talent out there. The U.S. isn't actually at the forefront of education. And companies have long since decided that they're okay hiring 10 less skilled workers for the cost of one very skilled worker. Today many U.S. tech workers fret and complain about the H-1B1 program. Well, once we're all set up for remote work and have all our new processes in place, we won't need it anymore. It'll be easier and cheaper to send a laptop across the world. TLDR, I think a lot of people who are overjoyed with the new WFH landscape will be singing a different tune in a few years after they're caught in a round of layoffs and are faced with finding a new position. I am torn apart in this because I am experiencing all the advantages right now, but I am also super unproductive and being home all day and having to give myself structure is horrible for my mental health. I am a person that can work long and hard, but I absolutely lack the ability to organize myself and stick to my own schedule. Combine this with a tendency for depression and you get an otherwise very successful employee that is suddenly not accomplishing anything anymore. I really don't miss the 2 hours of commute per day or being in an office where I have to listen to the same radio station every day, but if I need to endure this in order to get myself out of this hole I am right now, I would gladly take it. This is happening nationwide. Where I live, a company that has 2 new office buildings they spent millions of dollars to build has said they will only be moving into one of them, because they expect their workforce to largely keep working from home. Where I'm working, we have a few hundred people that I support. I am essential so I'm in the office, but everyone else aside from us support people is home, and there's no indication they will be coming back ever. There's a F500 company that got a huge tax incentive to build a new office building in my area. Part of the deal is tens of millions of dollars in penalties if they do not occupy the building with certain minimums for 5 years. The building finished construction during pandemic, just starting the 5 years recently. A few months ago they realized pandemic WFH so changed the dynamic that it would be a net savings to give up the office and eat the cost. My parents work for Nationwide Insurance. The company had intended to eventually close down most offices, but the pandemic spurred them on more quickly. So, all but 4 or 5 Nationwide Insurance offices closed down towards the start of the pandemic, and my parents now work from home permanently unless they get a new job elsewhere. And they're definitely moving closer to family next year. I already have. I spent 3 months furloughed. It was supposed to last 6 months. My wife and I up and moved from Seattle to the Midwest. As I'm driving a box truck across the country, my employer calls me to return from furlough early. I explained my situation and he called me back the next day and offered to let me work remotely for all of 2021, and we will discuss permanent remote status sometime next year. My corporation has offices in Seattle and Southern California. They just told us yesterday they are in discussion with companies that may want to sublet some of their office space, anticipating that many employees will stay remote. In the meantime, my cost of living has gone way down and I'm still making a Seattle salary. If they keep me, I would be open to renegotiating. I had a buddy switch careers to his dream, knowing he'd have to lose a lot of seniority. I think it ended up being about a 40% pay cut. But he moved out of a HCOL, so his actual purchasing power, not his take-home, but after rent and groceries, was up a little, and as I said, he took a cut in seniority, so he's looking at pretty much 1 to 2 guaranteed promotions within 4 years, closing much of the gap. I'm more inclined to ask for FT remote status, but I'll still go into the office for meetings. If you've worked at a company for a long enough period of time, you know when you need to be in the office and when you don't. If your company has offices around the country, I see little reason for any of those employees to return to the office FT. This is obviously much different if your company, especially your department, is all located in one building. Then you'll run into some managers pushing for people to return. TM in the process of doing so now. I'm a teacher who is required to teach in person at school and online, even though I requested an at-home teaching position due to health concerns. This job has slid so far downhill. The only reason I'm still sticking around is for the time off and because I worry about being able to find another job right away. But I'm in the process of applying for permanent WAH jobs that would allow me to work from anywhere and visit other places in the world while still working. I certainly hope so. We've been remote since March and it's been lovely not having to commute 2 hours a day. I actually have time for activities after work and am spending more time with my family. Not for working remotely, but I'm watching more costs of things going up in the middle of the pandemic here, and I'm sick of the proximity to NYC. Obviously, the huge population of an urban area like that has shown itself to be a public health hazard. I'll be looking to move out of New York when people with different state plates are no longer demonized, as I can no longer afford to live here. I think it depends on where you are at in your life and career. As a young person, there is still a lot of value in living near the city for career opportunities and establishing yourself. Competition will be soaring if people can get away with living somewhere cheap but getting paid city salaries, so I think that only the lucky and established will be able to obtain the coveted high-salary remote jobs. A young person will be better situated as a physical presence with their company. Hopefully the overall accelerating trends we are seeing now will make cities more affordable for young people to build their careers and networks up. My SOSCO worker left his cushy DC lobbying job, international education, to work on and own a goat farm. It was his dream, so he took the opportunity. We just got a holiday card from him and he is having the time of his life. I still think it is a double-edged sword. Folks in IT at least had this opportunity pre-COVID, it was just more challenging to find work and having employers/clients open up to this possibility. The harsh thing about this is time zone differences, and if you are willing to modify your daily life for this. Globally, IT industries always have this challenge, as if you have inexpensive labor across the world, there is limited time overlap in how you support each other. Also, consider long-term. If you get laid off, what opportunities do you have in case you need to find an in-person job? This only applies to programming, not IT. If a drive dies in a storage box, someone has to physically be there. If a stick of RAM on a client PC dies, someone has to physically be there. There is a lot of physical work in corporate IT. I'd say it's about 50-50ths. Small business is another story, but anything with 50+ employees needs on-site technicians and personnel. I already made this move, took advantage of the situation and moved to working fully remote in June. From Houston to Austin, best decision ever. No salary raise or any kind of compensation since it was my choice completely, but I could care less. Boss had no issue with it as my productivity is the same, if not better. Just asked that I communicate every move and plan I make as far as work meeting and site walks go, so we're on the same page. I work at an A&E firm, so travel is sometimes. Was definitely tough to adjust, but if you really want it, it'll be no problem. I've thought about moving from Chicago to SLC, Utah. Alas, it is probably a pipe dream at this point, as I've put down some roots in Chicago. Also, my desire to move to SLC is based on fond memories of living there in the early 2000s. If I'm being honest, I'm probably looking at it through rose-colored glasses, remembering all the good stuff: mountains, skiing, pretty girls, etc., and forgetting all the bad stuff. Not sure what bad stuff though. I follow r/Salt Lake City, and it still looks pretty awesome. I came across an article pre-COVID that talked about mortgage companies looking closer at your work address and home address, and making sure things matched. If they didn't, there were some instances of mortgage companies looking for documentation from your employer that you were specifically authorized to WFH in that specific location. Seems some folks had tried to move to a new place with tenuous WFH privileges, then once their employer found out they had moved 1,000 miles away, their WFH privileges were revoked. That would be an awkward position to get into. And probably expensive. Realistically, I'm probably okay to work from home for the rest of my career, but there will be an expectation to come into the office once or twice a month when if we ever get past COVID. Current estimates from my employer are opening the office back up mid-2021, but everyone's still guessing at this point. I could stomach just flying in 1 to 2 times a month, but I know that would get old. Sigh. Marriage and home ownership make things more difficult. SLC is about to be the next Denver/San Fran/Seattle. Get in while the getting's good. I am actually contemplating the idea. This is quite a tough spot. Did that 15 years ago, went from living paycheck to paycheck to buying a home within 6 months of leaving northern New Jersey. I personally like the idea of working remotely 3 weeks out of the month and going into an office for 1 week of the month. That was you can conceivably be able to travel and live wherever you want while still having a degree of structure. Yes, putting our 3-family up for sale here in Brooklyn and relocating to Mexico to buy a house on the beach outright and will carry a small mortgage for a house in Vegas. My perspective may be unique because I've been a 90% remote employee for some time now. This year has been hard for me because I realized that without dining out and the gym, I literally spend my entire life inside my apartment and I hate it. I've started training to transition into skilled labor because I think my job will become obsolete as more people are working from home and doing more contract remote administrative work. Just need a change. I do want to leave the city soon though. I actually miss working in the office and seeing my great colleagues. The social interactions, the friendly competition, and just energy of being around some really cool people. I know there are many people who are not like this, but good on ya if you like WFH and are as productive or even more productive than at work. I haven't had trouble working at all. I've had a few different jobs and I could have worked from home, but going to work is more fun. Going to move to Texas for school, probably Dallas since everywhere else is filled with loonies and window breakers. Dallas don't play that game. My spouse will definitely be getting a pay raise because they have a higher income rate and no income tax. I've seen a lot of empty jobs everywhere I go, no shortage of work in the Midwest, just people who don't want to work. To help job seekers during this pandemic, I compiled a free list of 12K remote opportunities from 1,500 plus companies. It automatically adds new jobs and deletes expired ones every few hours. Here's the list. I started working on this a few months ago because existing resources don't show that many remote jobs and many postings are expired by the time I see them. For those based outside of the US, there's a toggle to hide us only jobs. I'm in Asia so I guess this doesn't apply to me, but I checked out the site and it is pretty cool. I hope it helps make the job hunt easier for most people out there. The simple design makes it very easy to move through. Good effort on putting it together. There are definitely some opportunities in Asia, amount depends on your field. There's nearly 7K opportunities for people outside of the US, and although most of those are in Europe, there are many companies headquartered in Asia or willing to hire people in different time zones. Thanks for the kind feedback. I'm digging your positive vibes. You are a beautiful human being. I remember seeing your posts when you were just compiling lists. Thank you. Thanks for your ongoing support. Great job on creating the website. What tools do you use to create the website? I used Gatsby, Scrapey, MariaDB, DigitalOcean, and Express.js. Wow, amazing. Let me know how I can buy you a beer, for support. Bookmark it. My 18-year-old is looking for a starting job. I told him perhaps customer service from home would be great. Your website will help a ton. Thank a lot. This link is for donations and you can buy me a beer https://www. Doing the Lord's work. Lord Sauron? I'm gonna have to check that out. Hopefully there's some decent entry-level jobs in there. The entry-level filter doesn't have many jobs, but if you are also looking for junior positions, there are a lot more. Some companies call their entry-level positions different things, so junior might apply to you. I'm a fan of the footer text in the Reddit/Discord icons. It reassures me, lol. I think anyone who sees it outside of you posting it, and recognizes the icons, possibly would feel the same. It is a great alternative to most other job sites. I love the UI. It is clean and quick and simple. And the refreshing posts is great. I have no education or experience in what you did, but have a huge interest in user interface/experience. And programming. Silly issues on websites drive me nuts. Yours is soothing. Never thought I'd say that about a job search site. Oh. And I love the pending membership thing/ability to be notified when it goes live. There are fun features I didn't even realize existed at first. I do have feedback on that part actually. I was expecting join to mean join our team as if it were for a job. I'm not sure if I would change the word myself. Maybe join/login or visit community. Idk. I would also just leave it alone. Just a random thought. And the color is the best, that's what makes it soothing for me. It is bright and optimistic. Is the US the primary market? Nope, there's around 7K jobs that aren't US based. I've been looking for something very similar, but with the option to create one or multiple lists of firms. And follow updates from specific firms. I'd even be willing to pay at least $10 a month for such a platform. I already pay $40 a month for LinkedIn Premium, which doesn't allow me to create custom lists. That's one of the original goals I had with this project, to let you follow companies you're interested in so you know immediately when they have an opening for you. No need to bookmark all their career pages and manually check every so often. This is definitely on my list of things to make. This is really cool. Do you have a public GitHub of the project? Ich liebe dich my guy, lol, big thank you for Canada. Ich liebe dich auch. Thank you for doing this. I've been laid off and can't wait to dig into this. Yeah, cool, like it a lot, very sleek, but could there be a country filter? There will be in the future. I'm so done with my current job and have been looking but nothing really happens. I'm gonna be looking at this. Thank you so much. This is amazing. Thank you so much for your hard work. Dude. This is amazing. People would pay you thousands of dollars for his on subscription. I sat through a scam so you don't have to. SPRWT is a MLM, and nobody has said anything yet. Let's go through this one. I received a phone call 25 minutes after application. Which is a bit strange. 2 was offered a job after a 30-minute conversation. 3 was told I'd be selling software to companies that sell food prep. When you get into it, they want you to set up a website and create meal prep plans. So already you're not doing what you were hired to do. 4 was told this job requires a $1,099, and that base pay is $2,000 a month. Yet no sight of $1,099 or any inclination of getting paid. 5 and this is the best part, after you set up your website to peddle their meal prep plans, again not what I was told I was hired for, they want you to enter your credit card information and add $500 to your balance. It sounded too good to be true. I cautiously walked through their steps and ultimately found out they're a scam. I didn't enter any incriminating info, nor did I let them get any of my money. There was more that happened, but this right here should be enough. This post is ideally to prevent anybody from losing any money or getting tricked. Stay safe out there, there's more scams than jobs. SPRWT scam. I remember a few years ago I had applied to a job, and when I got the job offer, I realized it said it involved depositing large amounts of money to my personal bank account. I was young and inexperienced, so I wasn't sure this was correct, but my gut told me it was weird AF. I consulted my mom and it was she who told me it was a scam. I am glad I never signed that job contract. They're very sly, you have to stay on your toes. I'm happy that they didn't screw you though. So far since I started looking hard for a job back in October, I've also encountered a few scams. One of the most telling is that you'll see the same ad posted on a job site forever, which is telling that they can hire unlimited people for it. There are 3 of them so far. AIL or American Income Life Insurance Company, incredibly scammy because you get invited for an interview that you need to schedule using Microsoft Teams, but it is just a video of some guy in an office full of trophies talking about how you could have your own location within a few years. Super red flag. Second was AO Group. This was sketchy because it is advertised as a regular administrative job, but in reality it is just raw solicitation, and their group interview was just a bunch of pre-recorded videos mostly talking about how amazing the company is. That and I accidentally missed the first interview and I was able to reschedule without a single person seeming to notice, plus I got the exact same email after about scheduling an interview, not anything like whoops we missed you. And finally, the most suspicious of them all, an assistant manager at Capital 4 whose site is online and not .com or anything. These guys were the sketchiest because the position doesn't seem to have anything to do with being a manager at all, especially not an assistant manager. No mention of who are your direct reports and no mention of who you report to. The worst part is that they gave me a job offer with no interview whatsoever. It supposedly pays $5,000/MO and they offer PayPal as one of the options. So I noped out of there. Funny enough, this place made me interview through Google Meet and the guy never even showed himself and gave no explanation as to why. There's a lot of them out there and normally I just Google the company name and scam. This one must be new or has been flying under the radar. I've been denied from 1,200 jobs in 7 months. Hi, I'm asking for advice. I am a user experience/user interface designer. Since May 2020, I've graduated with my master's degree in interactive media. Since then, I have been applying for jobs in the fields of UX design, UI design, product design, etc. Contract part-time, full-time, and also with categories such as internships, junior level, entry level, mid-level, and even some senior level positions just for fun. I've been denied from all 1,200 of them, which I have recorded on an Excel sheet. I've only received about 3 to 4 interviews and have received no offers. During my MA program, I've created amazing projects EX. Going out of the country with colleagues and create a website to promote tourism for a farmers community in Costa Rica / and a different project as my capstone, a fully fledged UX/UI project created from scratch to finish as a fully functional prototype. My project experience seems very good, but I do not have actual professional work experience as a UX designer. For the roles and responsibilities, I believe I either meet or exceed them in every job posting. I've spoke with many peers and have consulted LinkedIn for advice and feedback and have added improvements over the past few months. The only thing I have been doing is working on projects to improve my portfolio and my skill set. I believe that in every application, I try to pour my passion and wanting to grow in the cover letters, etc. But I get ghosted most of the time. I understand that COVID has caused a rough time, but I don't believe that I have nothing in my power. Jobs are still hiring and people are still getting hired. I just don't know what to do anymore. Any advice would be helpful. Thank you. Try a review over at r/resumes. And truly open yourself up to constructive feedback. If your portfolio/projects were amazing/well above average, you would have a job by now. How do you find the time to apply for 1,200 jobs in 7 months? I primarily apply on LinkedIn and Indeed. It saves a lot of the information. Also sites like an autofill my info from Google Autocomplete as well. Yet, there are quite a few UX jobs. If you are not getting something with 1,200 applications, there might be a deeper issue in your portfolio/background. Might be your resume. Need to tailor your resume to the jobs you apply to. You are most likely not hitting the keywords. LinkedIn is mostly garbage though. Do you have a whitewashed or ethnic name? I ask because I was in a similar situation. I applied to 20,000 full-time jobs over 12 years, 0 full-time salaried offers. I applied everywhere, company websites, LinkedIn, Indeed, Jobmonster, etc. It turns out I was facing severe name discrimination. My resume was never even looked at. As soon as the yuppie HR reps saw I had an ethnic hard-to-pronounce name, my application went straight in the trash. Earlier this year, I was given a minimum wage part-time job through someone I sold my guitar to who was Indian and also had a hard time. I worked hard and proved myself and was offered a full-time $62,000 job 2 days ago at the company. My advice is stop applying through online sites and traditional means. If you applied for 1,200 jobs and got a poor response, you are facing some sort of discrimination somewhere in the process that is gonna hold you back for life. For people like us, the only way to get a foot in the door is through a personal recommendation. The sooner you figure out how to get that, the sooner you will land a job. Applying online only works if the first impression your name gives aligns with the stereotypical yuppie culture HR departments try to cultivate. Would it be rude to call? So I currently have a job offer that needs an answer regarding my acceptance or rejection by 5 p.m. today, Thursday 12/10. This job would be a welcome change from the extremely stressful work environment that I'm currently in, but it isn't necessarily my dream job. I did have a really great interview on Tuesday for a job that I would love. At this point I knew of my alternate offer and informed the interviewers at the end of our video call that while they were my absolute first priority, I had another standing offer that I was considering. They said they would be able to get back to me one way or another by the end of the week. Afterwards I realized I had not been entirely explicit with my timeline and sent a follow-up email immediately to clarify my Thursday deadline. Well, it is Thursday morning and I did not receive a response to my email yesterday. Would it be rude or impatient of me to call sometime this afternoon before I have to give my answer? Should I just accept the offer and perhaps rescind it if I receive a response on Friday? I would really hate to have to do that, but at the same time I don't want to put the hiring manager on the spot. I would take the job. Then if the other place comes up and says you got the job, leave and take the other offer if you think it is really worth it. Thank you for the advice. That certainly is a route that I'm considering. I hate to be that type of person who goes back on their word, but it hopefully wouldn't be too much of an inconvenience to the hiring department because I wouldn't be able to start for 2 weeks anyway. Wondering if I should tell my manager, does this count as double dipping? My company, which I am a full-time employee at, arranged me to do some consulting work in another company every Wednesday and paid a fixed monthly amount for my travel expenses. However, today, the company that I was sent to also gave me a $200 check for my travel expenses. I use my own vehicle, and it's a 1-hour drive each way, which is considered a very long distance in the country I work in. The consulting fee is also paid to my company, with the travel expenses being my only extra compensation if that makes a difference. I'm kinda confused, because if the $200 were for my company, they should have included that in the total sum they pay my company for my services instead of giving me the check. Am I supposed to let my company know about the check the second company gave me? How should I tell them? I would say something and get it sorted out. No one wants to be called a thief or a liar. Let your boss know what happened and just say at the time you didn't realize what was happening and took it, but realize now that you don't know what it is for exactly. Thanks. My company pays me well and $200 is just not worth risking my reputation for. Tell your boss, he will probably tell you to keep it and be impressed with your honesty. Even if you have to give it back, I think you will have made a great impression with both companies. I think he might let me keep it since it doesn't seem that the travel expenses was part of their agreement. I'm gonna tell him, thanks.
Like and subscribe for more Reddit content. Watch the next video at the top of your screen.